Gregory Reintjes. I lead the marketing team over at LALO Tequila. We're based in Austin, Texas. One of our co-founders, David, and the other man's name is Lalo, brought me on about 8 months ago to lead the marketing function there. So really excited to talk to you guys about Lalo, building a lifestyle brand, and I'll pass it on to David. Love Miami also.
Hi, also I love Miami, of course, and I have been coming to Art Basel for many years, not for selling tequila specifically. This is the first time. We're about to launch in Florida next year, so in 1 month or something like that. We're really excited to be here, but the main reason we're here is to be with you guys, so thanks.
Thank you.
Allie Frost, Senior Vice President of Member Experience at Wheels Up. So Wheels Up is a private aviation company, and we're a membership model. And I love Art Basel because I'm just an art geek. So my best time here is literally when I'm by myself walking around just looking at the art. So not the parties, but yeah, enjoy it.
Yes, some of us do parties. Some of us geek out like Taylor Swift at artists. That's Allie. So I think that a really interesting thing about each of you, David, I don't know, you're a co-founder, so it's not true for you, but you've all been in your jobs less than a year. So I think that that's a really interesting thing. And I think that what I'm curious about is what interested you in this brand, what brought you in, considering the one common factor is that you live in this world of luxury, and you have these very distinct products or services. So we'll go backward this time. Allie, what brought you to Wheels Up?
Well, I was going to say I started my career in consumer packaged goods at Colgate-Palmolive, so I could get psyched about toothbrushes, toothpaste, and dish soap, and then have since worked in golf and luxury watches and aviation. So I'd say at the end of the day, it's all about the consumer, and it's whether just watching, figuring out why they buy, what they do, it's a little sexier when you work in luxury than on toothbrushes.
I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think, when I was looking at the opportunity with Lalo, I thought that there's a really cool opportunity to bifurcate how we think about product versus brand. There's a lot of fantastic tequilas that are on the marketplace, and there's not a ton of great brands. And I thought that there was an opportunity, with Lalo and David and their vision to take this brand and start to explain sort of what modern Mexico could look like. And so I think that there's a higher order purpose with Lalo that I think is really exciting, and I'm sure we'll go into it in more detail in a bit, but that was why I moved.
Cool.
I think for me, I've worked on the brand side for most of my career, for all of my career pretty much, and a large part of my responsibilities were to bring consumers that look like me to those brands. And so I have this unique opportunity where I get to take the brand to the consumer in a voice that the consumer understands. And so it's really getting the brands to understand how the consumer wants to hear from them, and then also, meeting the consumer where they are. So I think it's a really cool opportunity to kind of flip my career on its head.
Yeah, do the opposite of what you've been doing. Yeah, that's really cool. One of the things I thought was also really interesting in learning about David a little bit was, to go into the Lalo bit, was you talked about the product, right? A lot of us, we talk about service, we talk about product, but the design of the bottle and creative and making that a core to what the brand is. Can you expand on that and provide a little context?
Well, yeah, so that it's about luxury. The way we wanted to create it was something that was easy to see, nothing pretentious, something clean, that it's our product. We just sell a Blanco. It's the only category of tequila we sell and we will ever sell, because it's something we started for friends and family. So we did the best quality that we think, for tequila. So we keep it that way. So we were thinking always if we do another category just to have more space on the shelf or try to sell more, that won't be authentic actually. So for us, the package has was like had to resonate with that, that it was something clean, something pure, and even the colors that we choose, our label is white, again because it's clean, and then we have the gold and royal blue color that are the colors of the flag of the state of Jalisco, where we're from, and where tequila needs to be made. So that's like where the package idea came from, to be really authentic with what we're selling.
Yeah, and that notion of making it a friends and family brand and something you built there is kind of where I wanted to transition to, because luxury as a definition is varied by each of you, I would imagine. So I kind of want to unpack that, right? Like, what does luxury mean to you, especially within the brand you're in? I mean, you worked with AMG Mercedes, which has a very distinct difference between what it is you're doing now. So how would you define luxury?
Oh, that's a very good question. So for me, luxury is an experience. I think an experience can be delivered through a product. I think it can be delivered through a service. But inevitably, I spoke to this earlier, for me, luxury is something that makes my life easier, or it elevates my current state. So I made the mention of like sending out my laundry is like my new luxury thing that I've gifted to myself. And so yeah, for me, that's what luxury is. It's about aesthetics. I mean, I'm one for aesthetics.
You got that.
But yeah, for me, luxury is all about making my life easier. It's about convenience, and it's about elevating my current state, whether it's a product or a service.
And I think, Ali, like when we were talking yesterday, that was a similar thing.
Yeah, I was going to say I agree with Keri. So luxury can go from a really gorgeous pair of shoes to, at Wheels Up, it's just your time, convenience. To me, like that saving time is just as much of a luxury for someone as those amazing pair of heels. So I think it can really span based on the person.
I agree with that. I was thinking just what you were saying also, and I think luxury for us is like time, and I think like it could be more luxurious, like just having the time to have some, in my case, really good tacos in my hometown, standing up, in a food truck.
Yeah.
Like that's more luxurious than probably just going to an expensive restaurant, So I think like I feel like nowadays luxury has been confused with price, and I'm converting it into a monetary thing. When for example, of us in LALO, the luxury that we sell is that we age our product like in the land, in the field. So we use fully mature agave. That means it's 6-7-year-old agaves, and we don't use any, we don't have any celebrities involved. We don't have any billboards. Like that's like for me where the luxury comes. Like that you are the one that introduced the brand to your friends. You have that time to talk about it. You have the time to discover who is LALO. Like my co-founder, like his dad created Don Julio Tequila and called it after his father. So he's Don Julio's grandson. But it's, for example, something I'm talking here, but it's not something we have on the label, or we don't have it in our publicity. So that's luxury for me, like that people have the time to talk about it, and it's like for us it was really important to don't have a really expensive tequila or bottle, because I feel then it's like where luxury gets confused, right? Like, are you buying it, or you think it's luxury because it's expensive, or because the actual product is good? Because
price
most of the
value.
Yeah, because most of the time what I tell people is like, in case of tequila, right? Or I guess in other stuff, like if you see the bottle is super tall and with all this package and all this stuff and all this whatever, like their margins won't work if their actual juice was expensive or good quality, So I think nowadays, like for any of these products like luxury, you should like see how many time people that work there dedicate to that.
But you do want it to look beautiful on your bar. So I'm just saying, it's
That's
like
important.
also an aesthetic from that perspective too.
That's important, and I also think that, and I'm going to steal this quote from the global brand officer from LVMH, who I was listening to recently on a podcast. She said the main difference between fast-moving consumer goods and luxury is that FMCGs are attempting to reduce consumer pain points, and luxury is about increasing consumer desire. And so I think that to all these points up here, desire can be something that's defined as giving someone more time. It doesn't have to be defined just by price point, just by package. There's a number of ways to build desire and create desire, and to me, that's what luxury is.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we just covered like 2 of the things you put in your LinkedIn post that you were going to cover. So it's like we're on a right path. And if you guys have been in sessions this week, there's been a lot of Web 3.0, the stuff we're not talking about today. So
What about billboards? What about billboards? Because you just said you wouldn't do a billboard, and I said I love the use of billboard for a brand. It just depends on how you do it.
Oh, and that brings the other question. So a lot of us here in this room are advertising people. And this category is most fascinating because I asked a simple question. Well, in your marketing mix and how you're thinking about marketing, what percentage or how important is advertising? And your quote?
Yeah, so I have a quote that hangs behind my desk in Austin, Texas, and it says that advertising is a tax that brands pay for being poor at marketing. And so I think that there's a very important distinction between marketing and between advertising. Advertising, you're talking at a consumer, and marketing, consumers are organically coming to you because you're creating content, you're creating a brand or a product that they truly care about and they want to engage and build community with you. The one thing I will steal from Web3 and from crypto is that they're very intent on community building, and I think more CPG brands specifically can do a much better job of doing that and fostering community and building community in a very authentic way. So that's the last I'll talk about Web3, and then we'll go back to the tequila, but those are my 2 cents.
That's cool. And like you had a slightly different view, like you like a billboard.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think like even looking outside at all the art, like your billboard's also your opportunity to like show your art, like tell your story and like visually show your brand. I did have a different answer last night because we actually are not advertising as much because we actually have so much demand. We actually don't want more people right now. We do want more people. Don't tape that, but we're slowing it down because we have we need more supply right now and less demand. But I do think, just going back to the billboard, it's like your creative expression of your brand, or it can be if you do it well.
No, and I agree. Not all billboards. I enjoy, especially there's like the Gucci billboards, for example. I love them. I always tell him, right, like, because they're having fun. It's like a lifestyle thing, you know, like you enjoy it, like they're always happy. So just for us, I think the billboards is just because now in tequila, like it's so much like celebrity driven, you know, that they put it so much in your face. They're like this actress and this singer, then this interior designer, then this other person, and some of them, they don't even drink alcohol, you know, but like they put you that image there that I feel like in our product, you know, I always say like we always say like that, yeah, that we have a celebrity or we have like multiple celebrities involved, but the celebrities involved in us or in the company is the people behind the bar or that goes to your table, because they're the ones that actually know about products, you know. So it's just like in our case, I guess, in what we're selling, we rather spend our money in like the people that work with us and also in spending time with the people that is promoting our product, which in our case, it works better someone behind the bar or at the tables.
Well, that part's working because in Los Angeles and in Dallas, those bartenders are selling LALO, so I'll give you some credit there. That's good, having been able to try it. Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, it's, you know, I'm a marketer first and foremost, so I always think of advertising just in my mind space as you telling everyone how great you are, and then I think of marketing as actually being great on the ground and everyone seeing how great you are. So to your point, I think, you know, advertising is the tax you pay for not being a great marketer.
As somebody who sells advertising, that's, you know, you've got to have really good ads. That's what I'm going for. You have to have really good ads that tell a story, and that's what makes it work. David, I've heard you talk fashion. You got 6 shoes on.
I was looking at them.
I mean, that's great. I think the whole Balenciaga mess is like so fascinating, and as a brand that they've built, it's irreverent and shocking. But my question is this latest campaign intentional? And if so, how do you feel as a marketer? Like, is that a strategy you even want to employ?
I can do it, of course.
You want to? Okay. So this is an interesting question because as a marketer, I will say a lot of marketers think that any chatter is good chatter for their brand. I think in this age of social media, people have very short attention spans with very long memories. And when you do something, I won't say it's intentional on behalf of Balenciaga, I don't work there, not on their marketing team, but when you do something not understanding or not even taking in consideration what the repercussions might be, I think they forget the internet, everything lives forever online. And so again, people have very short attention spans, but very long memories. And so you have to see how that's going to impact your brand value. And then also, like, who is your target consumer? Is that who's being affected by this? That's something that I think you have to consider when it comes to like brand value, and then your brand equity. What's the blowback from that?
Right.
Well, I think it's like, first, I don't think it's fascinating. I think it's super sad, what it's happening because of the topic that it is about. And I was talking with Trisha, she's there, and Greg, and my team. I think like what happened there is like when you're like when you as a leader probably of your company, like you're not connected with everyone. So I guess, and I hope that what happened there is just like, it's such a big team and there's so many people involved that there was a disconnection, and maybe the person that actually did that campaign was trying to sabotage them, like without the brand knowing. I really don't think I don't think anyone like I don't know how to say, like with mental health, will ever consider to play with that. And I know a few people that work at Kering Group, and I really don't think they will be playing with that. I think for me as a lesson is like as a co-founder of a company, it was more like, you really need to pay attention to every detail and know everyone that works in your company, especially in the creative marketing place, because there could be mistakes or people think different. But I really think in this case it was like, I really think it's maybe someone that did it on purpose to actually sabotage them.
Yeah, it seems very intentional.
And now David is going to look at every single piece of creative that comes out of my marketing.
I mean, some processes have to adjust, I mean, I worked for an organization where there wasn't a piece of, a cultural moment ticketed like campaign that went out the door without certain approvals. And so if that's the type of process that needs to be put in place to prevent things like this from happening, then
or they were sitting in their conference room and wrote shock and awe as their key KPI, and they're like, check.
And we're here talking about it.
I don't know. I was like, that's the only other alternative, to say that's what they were going for. But I totally agree. I think you want to express your brand, but like you want to make it meaningful, and like shock and awe to me is not, it's never a strategy I've used, but yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think what David said is really interesting because, like, if you have people that love the brand and are bought in, the chances of that type of thing, even having that like culture check is like, are you sure you want to do this? Like that, that's not a good idea. Is going to happen, and if you don't have people bought in, you're not going to have it. Which begs the next question: is all press good press? Like, I mean, you told a funny story about your experience at your golf brand.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit of that?
Yeah, so I headed up marketing for Greg Norman, the golfer who most recently has made headlines for his CEO role in Live Golf. So this was prior to Live Golf. And Greg and I would debate, he really just, all press is good press, getting your name in the press. He also came from the thought that he just speaks his mind, so of course it's just going to be what he thinks. And I think just talking about how media can construe your message differently, or you may not say things that you meant to be repeated or announced on social media. So I don't know if I have an answer. I do enjoy watching it play out. That's all I can say.
A dumpster fire is always fun, as long as you're not in it.
I think prior to social media, all press might have been good press, but I think, like you said, we're not meant to know your every waking thought.
Totally agree.
And you can't come back from that. Like, things on the internet live forever. And so, yeah, I think prior to social media, that was definitely a lot of how a lot of brands moved, but I think it's just not smart nowadays.
Well, so I brought up these kind of two things about what is luxury and, an example of what I think is not necessarily the best way to go about marketing yourself, to really unpack and get to how you guys are each individually building your strategies and like what's really important to you within your brands as you're looking forward, because that, is a good context for setting that stage. So, I mean, whoever wants to chime in order-wise, but like, love to hear what's your priorities, like kind of what you're doing about building that strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to LALO a little bit, and then I can let David chime in on this. But we're taking a little bit of a different approach in terms of how we're building this brand compared to most traditional CPG brands. I think, and we're really proud of it, because I think in traditional CPG, the strategy is to push out distribution in every retail in America. You don't really create real consumer demand around the product, and then a lot of the times that product becomes discontinued. With us, we're being very slow and methodical with our distribution and being incredibly focused on who our consumer is, what the ecosystem is that they live in, and being very targeted. Like, when we come to Miami, we know exactly the restaurants, bars, retail locations that we want to go into before we get into the market. And that's really important to us. And also just doing a lot of hand selling of the product, which I think a lot of people want to engage in really high awareness tactics early on. They want to blast out on paid social. They want to engage in a lot of advertising. And I don't think that that's the most effective way to build brand loyalty and brand meaning. And we're so much more focused on the middle and the bottom of the funnel in terms of how we build this brand. And it's okay to move slower at first in order to do that, but it creates people who are brand loyalists in the long term.
Yeah, I think what we want to do, like kind of like creating luxury, is creating a community, like this discovery fact that I was mentioning before. That's what we like, and we were talking yesterday about like the strategy, like kind of for next year, and like we like to be discovered. For example, we have presence in like now multiple states, but there were like places like Aspen, for example. We launched in Aspen, Colorado before Denver or before LA, and we did it there because it's like a luxury experience by going there, but then you will relate it like that brand, like with that, like you go to LA and you're like, oh, it's a Aspen tequila or whatever. We're doing the same in St. Bart's. It's our first international place that we're selling, but at the same time is what I'm saying, like we have a price point that is like it competes with like a commercial premium, but like a price, and we're not trying to put anything pretentious anywhere there. If you see our social media, it's like authentic Mexico, it's like the colorful streets, the mariachis, but also like we try to do like in our social media, like the people that it's there, they're wearing Mexican designers, and we try to expose that, and that's for us luxury, like where I think like it's really important where you see the brand for the first time, or who introduced you to the brand for the first time. I think that's where luxury should come from, and as brands, you should be like, okay, this is gonna be my spokesperson,
Well, I would, if I associate the brand with St. Bart's, I would drink it every time. I feel like I'm bringing you back on vacation mode. Well, I'll say the two things, I would simplify it to customer insights and data. And when we were chatting last night, I said, I hate to, like, even if you're in luxury, data is just as important, if not more, than other industries. And I say customer insights, for us, we're a membership model, so it's tricky because you can ask them questions, you want to know their feedback, but you also have to follow up on things that you ask them about if they want you to do them. So it's not like, let me look at my total addressable market and ask all these consumers. We're asking our actual members. So we really have to understand, like, what are we willing to do, and then what do we want to find out. So.
I think for me, my priorities, especially kind of in this new space, just to create more enriching retail experiences for consumers, and I think both in the digital and the physical, we call digital space, and then also create more authentic storytelling from the brand side to the consumer. So those are my two big focuses for luxury next year.
Okay, that's super helpful. The other thing that came, so the data thing, super interesting, especially in the world of sitting in the marketing org today. More than ever, marketers are taxed with results, show the bottom line. You can't just say, well, half of my marketing is working, but don't know which half. So how are you, I thought that you had a really interesting story about how you're approaching, like on a budget, like how do you get data insights? You want to share that story?
Yeah, so alcohol is a very interesting category. Unlike a lot of other CPG categories, we only do 2% of our sales through e-commerce, as an industry, and so there's not a ton of direct first-party, third-party data that we can gain on our consumers. So it can be a bit of a finger-in-the-air exercise sometimes to figure out, who our consumer is, where they live, where they work, where they play, all those sorts of things. So, we do a lot of this traditional quantitative and qualitative, insight studies to figure out who our consumer is, but in terms of their actual purchase behavior, it can be a lot murkier. So a lot of what we do is we create really, really strong demographic profiles, and we're just hyper focused on where those people live, and we don't necessarily, back to my point on advertising, it's hard to retarget ads at these people because you don't have all their purchase history from everything that they bought for your product. So you need to have a really nuanced understanding of that person's ecosystem and make sure that your product's available in those places. And this goes back to why distribution is so important for us. We need our product to be in places like Aspen, but when that person is in Aspen, they also need to fly back to LA, and they need to make sure that when they go to Soho House, the product's there at Soho House, and then when they go to the local liquor store around the corner around their place in Brickell, there's a store that carries our product. So I think it's so important to have that understanding of everywhere that person could potentially experience your product. And that's how we get around, I think, some of the issues with data in our industry.
Yeah, thank you. Which, by the way, they should be flying from Aspen on Wheels Up, or with you as a pilot flying them.
Oh, yeah. I know, Wheels Up, if you guys, you said you need more supply, let me know.
That's all right.
Pilot over here.
I'm just getting distracted by sitting on the beach in St. Bart's drinking tequila.
But for example, you sell, what we were saying, luxury is time. That's being able to use Wheels Up, that's real luxury,
It sounds like a group vacation to me.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing about Wheels Up and LALO is that they're both, they're aspirational. You can be aspirational but still accessible. And I think we're an accessible brand with our price point, and I think Wheels Up is more accessible than probably some of the other players in the space, but they're both aspirational. So you can market a product as aspirational, but you can create a brand that's accessible for consumers.
Yeah, no, I agree. We were talking about experiential last night, and when I took the job, I had several people not ask me about Wheels Up or the company or pricing. They were like, "Can you get me invited to the cool Masters party or the cool Super Bowl party?" Or we did our Basel last year, and they just love the brand. They love the experience we put on, even if, one day they want to be a customer, but right now they're not. Wheels Up has done a phenomenal job of creating that aspiration for them.
I would put Essence in that same bucket, right? You're setting the tone for...
My entire world is experiential.
Yeah, totally.
I think to your point, it's all about, one, kind of meeting the consumer where they are and then elevating them a bit, so accessible but still aspirational. And I think that's the approach we take with all of our Essence events, too. We have, Festival, which is for every single person in your family, something to do. But then we also have those kind of ancillary events where, they're invite only, they're more difficult to access, but those are the people see them and they're like, oh yeah, how can I get into that? And so we have our Black Women in Hollywood. There are a ton of events that we have, so yeah, completely agree with you.
I'd like to request to be on all of these events lists. I want to go, but probably everybody here, but me especially. Okay, just a moment. I think we're coming out of time, but if you had to say one thing that you're really looking for to learn about as marketers or wanting to grow, because this is a peer group, so amongst your peers in the next year, what's the one thing you really want to expand on, and so that way your peers can actually be like, oh, I actually know something about that. Is there anything you want to learn about this year?
I'm going to toss this down the end then.
She's like, I need more time to answer this one.
I was like, something we want to learn marketing-wise this year? I'm just a geek when it comes to the consumer, so I can't wait to sit and watch and talk and just pick our members' brains. I'll tell a funny story. I was in Panama City Beach for an activation years and years ago, and during spring break, which I don't know if you know PCB for spring break, I'd never gone for my spring break, but I went for an activation, and I just sat in the corner and watched. And I was talking to my brother at the airport on my way home, and he was like, "It's not a zoo. You don't sit there and watch them like animals." And I was like, "I kind of do. I love watching what people are doing, what they're experiencing, why they want to go to parties." I just geek out on and for me, having only been there 9 months, it's still our members are new and different for me. So I'm excited about that.
I completely agree with you. I love actually to sit at a bar by myself, and just hotel bars are my favorites, because you see all kind of dynamics. And so I think, it's really interesting. And what I'm looking forward for next year is keep knowing what's our audience, and growing it, because for us the way we define our luxury is we're always trying to don't be an intimidated brand, because then as a luxury brand you could intimidate people, and that's definitely not what you want. So we're always trying to connect with our sales team and everyone that works with us, and it's kind of what the Balenciaga thing I was saying, that maybe there was something disconnected there. So for us it's really important that to talk with absolutely everyone in our team and know what they see, because we all have different visions and they all see different things depending on the field that they're working on. So that's, I think, what me personally I'm looking forward to, connect more with our team and keep hearing what all these feedbacks.
Yeah, I think what's so exciting, especially for a small but fast-growing brand like ours, is basically double the number of states we're in next year. And I think every single state that we enter into, it's a unique opportunity to understand the universalisms that crosses our target demographic across all these different states, but also understand the nuances, what differentiates our consumer in Texas versus Louisiana versus Arizona. Because I think that there's small ways that marketers can bring really compelling programming to life when they understand how different states in the U.S. operate. I think another interesting thing about alcohol is we treat every single state like a country because the distribution laws are different. The rules and regulations around how we sell the product are so different that every time we enter a new state, it gives us a new opportunity to understand the consumer within that state. And to their points, like that's the beauty of marketing. I think it's the most human of any profession. It's all about observing, and I think that's the most exciting and fun thing.
Okay, I have something now.
Okay, good.
Actually, I have a few things, but the first thing I really want to learn is how luxury brands are appealing to their consumers in a virtual space as well as in a physical space. I know that we're all about experiential and experiences, and then consumer insights. How are we turning that into just as beneficial or valuable of a virtual experience than we are the physical experience? And then also, I really want to know how luxury brands are embracing all of the social platforms. Like I always say, TikTok is the new Google. Like, how are luxury brands really capturing their audience on these platforms?
Authentically, how are they doing it?
And authentically, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I was saying, I'm wondering if Balenciaga's sales spiked after the last 2 weeks. We'll see.
That's a good question. We'll see. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
I can tell you one thing. They're going to do it very slowly. Thank you all.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, audience questions. Sorry. Oh, wait, in the back.
Hi, guys. Hi. Thank you, guys. That was really interesting. My name's Taylor. I work with Revolution Marketing, so we do all things experiential and sponsorship. I'm curious, because we're talking about luxury brands, how you approach experiences or partnerships, because obviously we want to maintain being a certain level of exclusivity to maintain the, luxury category, but also wanting to be accessible, to your point, Greg. So I'm curious how you guys look at partnerships, or maybe where you choose to activate, and how you finesse those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say for us, experiences, we need to provide experiences that you can't buy, because our members can purchase a lot. Usually it's a pretty high household income consumer we have. So it's unique experiences they can't buy. And the more we find out about our members and their preferences, trying to work with those brands and those properties.
Yeah, for us, I think my favorite experiences that we do as a brand is like we host these dinners at someone's house. So we like it to be like someone normal, that it's maybe a leader in their group of friends, but it could be it doesn't matter the size of the house or the place, and we bring the luxury experience actually by bringing like handmade, embroidered Mexican tablecloth, authentic Mexican food, and like we just like that people like feel like at home, and like they're introduced to the brand like through friends. So we just tell the host to invite whoever he wants. At the end, everyone gets a bottle and they get to know us. So we just make more friends as a brand. So we try to make the experience like really, really personal and intimate.
Now it goes back to authenticity, right?
Yeah, and I think it's I should hand the mic over to Trisha, who we just hired as our experiential director. She's in the audience right now.
Hey, Trisha.
She's been here a whole 6 days. But I think in terms of where we think about like activating, there's experiential, I think traditionally is thought of as a lot of the things that you see outside right now. It's a lot of these big activations, very expensive, not sure about the ROI on a lot of these things. But I think like for us, like doing things like these dinner series, there's ways that brands can do it in a way that's tasteful and authentic, and also leverages the equity of other partners outside of, we don't want it to be a LALO branded experience. We want it to feel like it's someone else inviting LALO into their home and then introducing LALO to their friends and their family, which I think is a very important distinction, because I think the brands coming at you from an experiential perspective, or gifting, or influencers, it's very feels very salesy and it feels very advertising. And so if you can use other people to take the weight off the brand, to sell the brand for you, that's generally how we like to approach experiential.
And I want to add just something, like, because it was interesting, like we were working with this amazing PR agency that they're really great, and but like then we found out, like, through these experiences that they were personal. Like now, like all these people that were coming to these dinners, they felt our friends, because we became friends. We ended up partying with them like till late or whatever, and now through them we were getting more events, more connections, more introductions than what we were getting through a PR agency.
Yep.
So that was really interesting, to discover.
I think similarly to Greg's point, we don't, at Essence, we have a different portfolios of business, which bring out different consumers. So Essence Communication or Essence Magazine attracts a very different consumer than, say, an Afropunk. And to Greg's point, we work with brands that partner with us that integrate seamlessly into the Essence kind of family, so that it doesn't feel like we're pushing the brand on them. It kind of feels like, they're just a part of the Essence family. And so that's what I love being on this side of the experience, is that we get to dictate what that activation looks like, and we're not necessarily activating elsewhere. We have people activating with us, so we get to shape what that experience is for our consumers, and they can either fold in with us, or we will happily show them where else they can go. So yeah, for us, it's all about the impact to the end consumer and what their experience is like, and we value that over dollars any day.
Any other luxury questions?
What would you guys say is the most important step to building a lifestyle brand?
I think it's to build a lifestyle brand. That's what it said. I think it's just like that you actually live that life, that it resonates with who you are. Again, in our case, we try to make it a life like LALO, where we want to make a lifestyle around it, and we are selling our Mexico as being a Mexican-owned brand. I'm 33 myself, like same as my business partner. So we really like the lifestyle that we sell is our lifestyle. So I think for me that's the most important thing, that you actually live the brand, that it's not just something like if I certainly want to sell like a lifestyle of sports, and I'm terrible, for most of the sports. So that won't work,
Yeah, I think it's to be good at marketing, you have to have a degree of humility in terms of knowing what consumers you understand and what you don't understand. For example, I think in 5 years, I probably won't understand the alcohol category that well. I'll probably have aged out of it. Maybe I'll understand baby goods, or I'll understand pets, some other category much better. And I think the beauty of this brand is that, to David's point, like a lot of people who are building this brand right now understand the category very viscerally, because they live the experience of the brand right now. And so I think it's going to be much easier to build a lifestyle brand if you truly feel like you live that lifestyle. You're going to be able to make more nuanced and informed decisions around the tactics that you use, how you target people, who the consumer is, because you are the consumer at the end of the day. And I think that makes it significantly easier than trying to work in a category that you don't necessarily understand as well.
No, Greg, tequila is life. It will be life. And after you have children,
I'm not saying,
you will have more
Even with the
tequila
baby
in your
category.
life. Keri?
I was just going to say, I think it's self-awareness, and I think it kind of plus-ups both of their points. I think it's self-awareness and understanding what you do know about the culture and about the demographic that you're trying to move in, and then also what you don't know, and then making sure to have someone or have a team that can fill in all of your blind spots. So I think it's self-awareness. I think it's a bit of understanding your consumer, and then the authenticity about the lifestyle that you live as a brand, and how you're trying to integrate that into the lifestyle of your consumers.
Any more questions?
To answer, even though I work with Carol, so it's biased. No, I'd say what Keri said earlier, it's like when we talked about whether it's time, convenience, a great pair of heels, a great bottle of tequila, that desire that you tap into is like once you nail the desire, I think that's what creates the luxury brand. But then you actually have to build the business and have some really smart people around you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our luxury panelists. Thank you all.